Hi, and welcome back to Redmond Reviews. I'm Chris Garlock, managing editor of the American Go E-Journal, here with Michael Redmond, 9Dan professional. Michael, welcome back.
Hi.
Good morning. I know it's early there in Japan,
it's
so thanks for getting up. Have you had your morning tea yet?
Yes. Yeah, I'm okay.
All right. Okay. Have you done your exercises? We did exercises when you were here.
I haven't done any yet today. I'm doing them in the afternoons now.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Whenever you do them, it's good. All right. We'll do a separate thing. We'll reveal Michael's exercise regimen, but we want to press ahead and get these master games under our belt and out to you guys, so that we can have the decks clear for all the new master games and we're going to have in China. So, who is taking on master today?
It's Gu Zihao. This is yet another young Chinese player. I think he's about he's not even 20 yet. He's in his late teens. And I think he's won the Liming Cup once. I think that's the youth international tournament that he's won. And in this game, we're going to see Master playing its high two-space Shimari and a kind of an attacking style. So it's a style that Master plays sometimes that is relatively difficult to emulate, but it's very interesting because it's playing moves that humans. It's played a move or two that humans would not think of, especially when it jumps into the 3-3 point.
Oh yeah, people like that. People like the 3-3.
Well, yeah, it's really shocking for me because I can't really explain why it works. But let's just go into it. It starts, right. So it sort of changes its style midway because it starts out playing what looks sort of like a big Moyo style. Here, Master is black, and so you would get the impression that black is going to build this huge Moyo maybe, and for a while it's going to continue to attack. One point I want to make here is that it changes the Shimari depending on where white plays this move. Like if white plays this move here, Master almost always plays the large Shimari here, the Ogema. And then it's going to continue like this. And we saw this over and over again. I think there's probably almost 10 games in which it played this opening. If we, well, at least up to this point, white can play the Wariuchi on the upper side like this, or white can play the Kakari like this. And those are the two most popular moves. And then if Master is white, then it plays here, which is completely different opening. And so we're starting to see professional players play this move too. In fact, I played it in one of my games quite recently. It's one of the Redmond review games that I've already shown you, actually.
That's right.
Yeah. So black's strategy sort of depends on white's play here. When white plays the star point, Master will sometimes play this high Shimari. And I think that the idea is that it's going to work well with an approach at A next, the Kakari at A. To have the Shimari wide, so that black is Master likes to play a Kakari at A and then just leave that stone. It doesn't slide into the corner. It doesn't play an extension. Quite often it just leaves the Kakari stone. So I think it has maybe the strategy that it's going to work well with this big Shimari and leaving the Kakari at A. Why don't we do a variation for it? Like if something like this happened. I think when Master does, for instance, I don't think Master is going to play here, but this is a move that I might choose at this point. When black does something like this, it's going to work better if the Shimari is big compared to if the Shimari is small, because black wants to control the right side. So when white does, if white does move in something like this, it's better to have the Shimari closer to the side so that black can immediately attack white. So that's how I think that the big Shimari would work well with the Kakari in the lower left corner. Whereas some players would be sort of, after playing this, would want to be playing something like this, which, by the way, Master has never played this move that I've seen. So Master just doesn't slide in the corner like this. But if we have something like this, then this Shimari here is not so good. It's a bit too wide, and since it's weak in the corner territory, it's probably not. It would be better to have this Murray maybe here or something.
Wow.
And so just the way that Master continues after playing this Kakari here is just going to work better with the big Shimari. Actually, you know, Master probably is going to play something like this, but I just don't want to get into this because it's another thing that I have trouble explaining why it works. It's a move that I would be willing to play. It's not going to be a bad move in most cases, but it still is a difficult move to explain why it's so successful. And so I have the feeling that when White plays the star point, Black is sort of preparing to play the Kakari from this side with A. Whereas if White plays the 3-4 point, of course, Black's not going to be playing from that side, but is going to be playing from the other side, like this. And so maybe that has to do with why Black is playing the low Shimari here. And that is something that is actually working very well for human players too, the same strategy. And so White plays the low Shimari here. A very common move actually in modern Go. Players really like to play this low Shimari from the star point, whereas like 2 or 3 decades ago, it was compared to the low Shimari from the 3-4 point. And the difference here is that Black still has moves like this to slide into the corner. And so the Shimari from the star point is supposed to be weaker in territory. So there was a period where people sort of didn't like this White move. But nowadays, since players have become, I guess players have become slightly more oriented towards building influence or to moving out into the sides. And so it's become more popular. And now when White plays low, that's when Master starts doing stuff like this. And since this move does sort of, it gives Black some control of the center of the board. And it's going to help to reduce any moyo that White builds on the lower side. And so it's a move that it's going to work in some fashion. And so it's a move that I would not feel too uncomfortable playing this move, is what I'm trying to say.
No,
it's going to work there's going to be some positive effect of this move. But of course, before Master started playing this, people just didn't think of using one move to play in this area. Like it would be much more common to be playing something like this, or something like this would be what we would think of as a normal move. And so people don't really know whether it's really worth using up one move to play this, but it does sort of control the center of the board, and it reduces the value of anything that White can do on the lower side of the board. So there are positive values attached to this move, which make it a move that I'd be willing to try it out. And I actually have tried it in similar positions. And so White gets to play on the upper side. This is we can see White's playing slightly to the right. White's playing away from Black's thickness. Naturally, it would be also feasible to play here. The proverb says you want to leave an extension on either side of your Wariuchi stone. So this White would still have room to be playing something like this. But Black would be able to put pressure on White, but with this move, or maybe this one. And it would make it difficult for White to be erasing the upper left corner in the future. So Black would be getting some real profit in the upper left territory and the upper right territory while attacking White. And also Black would be building in the center also. So this would be okay for Black. So that's why White sort of plays away from Black's strength, which is on the upper left. And with these stones in the lower left also, Black does have a lot of strength on the left side, so that's why White is playing away from it. And we can see in the game sequence, White still does have enough room to make a 2-space extension. And this is a point where a human player would be thinking of allowing White to live and then just taking territory on the upper side and the upper right. Like this is where many players would be playing low here and allowing White to play this and then just taking the upper side territory And then moving away, maybe. This would reduce the threat of the 3-3 point, and then play something like this. So we can see black is gaining a lot of territory, sort of taking the cast while white lives. In return, white has got a very solid living group here. So white's starting to be playing a thick game now. And black has sort of just given up the idea of attacking. This is the kind of opening you see a lot in professional games, where black has already taken the profit and has just abandoned the attack. But Master didn't do that.
But it's typical of a lot of pros. Just take the cash, right? I mean, it's
territory is pros like territory. All strong players like territory. Eventually, you have to have more territory to win the game. So it's very important. But it's sort of interesting to see that Master still is trying to attack. And of course, attacking is another way to win the game, because if you attack efficiently, then sometimes that becomes a good way of increasing your territory too. And so this is a slightly different. Also, this again, again, we could see professional games in which black played this way, and in this case, again, black. Now, since black has a high position, black's going to add a stone to the right side. This is also something that is pretty standard. You could probably find a very similar sequence in professional games. Of course, some of the stones on the left side are pretty unique to Master, so you would have trouble finding exactly the same position.
Like the shoulder hidden extension.
Right, yeah, that kind of thing. And so so part of it is that black is trying to make use of all this thickness that black has on the left side.
That's a vital point, isn't it?
It's a very strong attack against white. Black is threatening to cut white off. And of course, if white had played, it's not as if white is cut off yet. Like if white really wants to connect, white could play something like this. But that would be really painful, right? So white's not going to do that.
You would be Neon King would tear up your professional card if you played that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, something like that. So white, but of course, if black does get to cut white off, then it's trouble for white because there's all these black stones on the left side of the board.
Right.
But yeah, this would be a bit painful just to look at it. And so what white does? White played here. It's sort of a natural looking move, just to play some forcing moves. Like if black is going to answer that, white would probably play a few more forcing moves and play something like this maybe.
Yes.
And it looks like it could work for white. But instead, Master immediately goes for the weak point here.
Dang.
And can cut white off. So already we have something that this has never happened before this position. Like this in itself is probably a new move. And so I've never seen this position locally. But it sort of makes sense because black is played high on the right side and black has a lot of stones on the left side, which all of these black stones can be used to attack the white group here. So black is sort of in a super aggressive mode in which black is not really going for territory, but it's just going for the attack.
Well, before you go on, let me just ask you, has white made a mistake yet? Or is this, is this...
Well, you have to, after looking at this move, after seeing this happen, I would start thinking about this move. This is the move that has happened. This is the sort of the default move that almost any pro would think of this move first.
That's not an unusual move.
Right. But after seeing this move and how effective it was, you do have to say that maybe white should have been thinking about more solid moves, like maybe this one. This would be much more solid, and it would not give black the opportunity to attack. Right. And locally, it's a bit painful for white to be allowing black to get such a solid shape there. But if we count the fact that black has used a lot of stones, like this stone here, the use of this one move here, the value of it has been reduced by white getting a live group on the upper side. And this wide Shimari, it leaves some bad AGA in the corner. There's a 3-3 point move there that white could use later, maybe to make some trouble in the corner.
Again with the bad AGA in the corner.
Yeah, and then there's this move, another high move here, which is oriented to attack. It means that, again, in the upper right corner, again, white has the invasion at the 3-3 point. And black has to play an extension on the right side fairly soon too, because white would get the approach move there. So if we count all of these moves that black has played, that will be slightly, not completely inefficient, but just slightly less efficient than more territory-oriented moves. Maybe it's worthwhile for white to play very solidly like this. So that's an idea that came to me after seeing what happened in the game. And if I was up against this for the first time, my natural reaction would be to play here. So it's kind of hindsight. It's just I after seeing this move, it makes me sort of doubt the validity of this move. Because I think the variation that happened in the game here was actually good for black. Although locally it was an even result, black got a lot of extra in the upper right corner. So let's take a look at how that happened. Black immediately went for the cut, and black can cut white off here. So this is a kind of a local trade. We can see that white has white's trashed the upper side territory for black. So black's upper side territory has disappeared, but black has captured a chunk of territory in the upper right. And the important thing here is that the upper right corner, which had a weakness in the 3-3 point, has become a black territory now. So the weakness here, let's just mark the 3-3 point just to make sure everyone knows. This invasion here has disappeared. And this was an important, this was something that white was looking forward to playing at some point in the game. So it's really important that this invasion is not going to work now. So black has something in the vicinity of 20 points there in the upper right territory, which is, it's a very efficient way to make that territory while capturing those two white stones. And so locally, I think, I have the feeling that it might be slightly better for black. Not a decisive difference, but I would be sort of feeling happy playing with black at this point. But again, it's still a fairly close game. It's the next move that really was the shocking move here, because at this point I would be thinking of I wouldn't be thinking of this move. This is the game move. I would be thinking of playing some approach against white's lower right corner. Like, it seems very natural for black to be playing here.
Any random Kakari would do, right? I mean,
well, yeah, I would probably want to play a Kakari from the right side, just because black has that position in the upper right. So this seems really natural. Why not play this way? And why not play this way is a question that I cannot answer, because I don't know why black has to play here.
That's really odd.
It's not the only game in which Master played an early invasion into the 3-3 point. And one pattern that I'm seeing here is that I've marked two black stones. Black has this kind of distant strength. Black is playing this invasion without any white stones on the sides. But black does have these marked stones that are sort of, you might say they're sort of controlling the lower side and the right side from a distance. And because black has these two marked stones, I think it's arguable that the right side and the lower side are, the potential for white is lower than it usually would be if we had an open board, for instance. And so these two stones are reducing the value of the lower side and the right side for white. And maybe that has something to do with why Master jumps into the 3-3 point.
So actually that I think answers your question. If you go back and show the variation with the regular Kakari that you suggested.
This one.
Yeah. So under that theory, then if you look at the marked stone in the upper right,
I'll mark it again.
Yeah.
This one.
Yeah, that doesn't really work as well, does it? And it kind of lets white off the hook.
This looks pretty good.
You like this one? I was buying your theory though. I kind of like your idea of scooping white out and using
Well,
those
yeah. Well,
stones.
the point is, I don't really know if I agree with Master's move or, but just going. If we go through the game in about 10 or 20 moves, we're going to see that Black has a lead. So it worked. It's just that I would never think of playing here myself, and I can't really explain. I'm not really. I can't really sell myself onto this idea that this is not as good as jumping into. It just doesn't really. It's very hard for me to understand, and I have to understand it to be able to really convince people as to whether it's a good move. But actually, Kache, the top Chinese player who's going to play Master. Right. I think he had white in that game, but he also started to play some Master moves, and he did jump into the 3-3 point in an unusual position just a few days ago. So he's really trying to emulate Master now. He's changing his style.
All right, so let's see what happens.
Just to get on with it, yeah.
Yeah.
White has to choose which side to cover. And since both of white doesn't have an extension on either side, you're supposed to cover on the side that you have an extension. So white doesn't have any extension, so it's really hard for white to choose. If white plays on this side, black's going to live in the corner. And the Master Joseki, you might say, is that Master usually crawls once more and extends on the other side. If anyone who knows their Joseki will know that black is supposed to play the Hanetsugi at A. But without a white stone on the right side, it's probably better not to play that Hanetsugi. The fact is that professionals would tell you not to jump into the 3-3 point if there's no white extension on the side. And so it's just not a position that's not covered by the Joseki books.
I was going to say the Joseki doesn't really apply then, right?
It doesn't apply to it. When black is going to play on the right side, it's better for black not to play the Hanetsugi at A.
Right.
And that's pretty obvious to me. And so that's why black has an extra crawling move on the at N2, an extra crawl on the lower side, just to make the Hanetsugi at A not necessary. So this makes sense. And of course, this extension here is perfect for black. And black's jump on the left here, this stone, it again is in a good position to reduce white's lower side. So everything is sort of coming together for Master's game plan.
And what are these white stones ever going to do now, right? I mean, they have nothing to attack. They're not going to make territory.
Yeah.
They're going to live, but so what?
So why did we tell everyone not to jump into the 3-3 point here? It's kind of a self-question problem. So let's go on to the game.
You need to go back and talk to your teacher about that.
Yeah. Well, he's passed away, so I can't. Yeah. So this is a kind of a Joseki sequence here. And again, black gets to the side first. We can see again, in this case, black is sort of playing a bit to the left here to keep away from white's thickness. And the difference between this variation is that black has a very solid position in the upper right, so black can extend all the way to the middle of the side here. Whereas black has less strength on the lower side, so in this case, black is sort of backing away from white's wall. And so white extends. And again, it's the amount of profit that white can get from this wall is sort of limited. Just because black does. So I would go back to this position here, where I'm talking about these marked black stones. Which are reducing the value of the two sides. And so that's how I see that Master's move is working. It sort of goes against the grain for me to really admit that it's a good move.
No, but
it's
really, I mean, once you mark those two stones, all of a sudden I could see the sort of the power radiating out from them.
Right,
it really is fascinating, but they're so far away.
Yeah, they're so far away. And especially, I still mark this black stone again. It's a move that could have become a slow move. Like, it could have been a wasted move, depending on how the game developed. But Master is making good use of it. Even with this attachment on the fourth line, it's a move that black was so much white's thickness on the right. Black would be a bit worried of maybe something like this happening.
Yep, yep.
But I don't think that black has to really worry about it. First of all, if white just pulls back now, it's going to be a ladder. So white has to do stuff like this. And with that black stone there, the fight is probably going to be good for black. So black doesn't have to worry about that either. So white pulls back. Oh, white, yeah. And now black slides into the corner. So yeah, this is working. Black wanted to play this move, and so going back to this, I mean going back 2 more moves to here. That's another reason why black sort of slided a bit to the left here, because because this slide here is a move that black wanted to look forward to. So that's another reason why black was playing a bit left on the side with this stone here, to make this slide close enough to work.
And isn't white kind of, that's the word, I mean, it just scrunched a bit on the right there, right?
Yeah, that shoulder hit on the left side there is sort of coming into play again, because it looks like white's corner could potentially be under attack. But white, black's got all the territory. Black has 3 corners now. Of course, the upper left corner is not really a black territory yet, but the upper right corner is territory. Of course, black has the lower right corner. So when black has jumped into the 3 point like that, white is black's putting pressure on white as far as territory is concerned also. White has to worry about the territory.
I just want to ask you, so what's your quick seat of the pants, territorial assessment at this point?
Well, black has about 10 points in the lower right corner, and probably about 20 points in the upper right corner. And I'm not going to count the upper left corner because it's not really a territory yet.
Right.
And so just something like 30 points. White has a few points on the upper side, and I'd say about 15 points for the time being in the lower right area. So more than 20 points. So the territory is not so bad for white. It's just that black does have that area in the upper left that could potentially become black's territory, and is putting pressure on white in the lower left corner. So black has a slight initiative here, and I get the feeling that black is already ahead at this point.
Yeah, it feels that way.
So white plays a strong move here. This is kind of an interesting move, a counterattack. But black plays here. Now this is threatening to connect underneath or push through and cut white off. So white cannot play strongly throughout. Like if white covered here, then black would just start pushing through, and white would not be able to handle that. So white cannot play very strongly here. White peeps once. Let's see. White peeps here. Now if black connects here, white's going to be playing something like this to connect up and forcing black to connect on the second line. So this would be okay for white. So instead, black pushes through and cuts here. So this is it's a really interesting variation. But with the cut here, white's shape is not so good. Like white has captured the corner, but black has a living shape on the right side with that one stone. It's pretty close to the living shape. And black has played this move to start surrounding the left side. And this stone in the corner, the stone of black's that is being cut off, there's still a bit of AGA there. And so it's sort of a thorn in white, that it's a problem there that white is sort of worried about. And it's going to control how white continues the game. It's going to have an effect. White has to worry about that left corner. And that's going to be, it's going to tie into the decisive fight, because black has a plan there that really worked. Well, you might say black has a plan there. It worked really well in the actual game anyway. So white jumps into the left side. And because of that, because black had such a big left side here by covering with this move, it means that either the left side or the upper left corner, one of these 2 areas is going to turn into a black territory.
Wow.
So black already has something like 15 points more profit by doing that. So white jumps into the left side. We can see that white is trying to start an attack potentially on the left side black group. So that's what white is sort of aiming at with this invasion. Now black jumps here. Now this is a really nice point also, because it sort of finishes off those 2 marked white stones. And so it takes the black territory up to more than 20 points. And it also reduces white's potential in the center. So this is a nice big move. So now white plays here, and we see white wants to start an attack. So the reason white plays a move like this is partly because white's sort of worried about the lower left corner. So white wants to reinforce it, wants to move out while attacking black on the left side. So that's the idea white has. But I get the feeling that master was waiting for this move, because the moment white plays there, black hana and cuts. And this is a nice tesuji. It's such a beautiful move. If white captures, if from here, white has a choice of capturing from here. This is the game move. Maybe you might, if white captures here, we can see that black can capture this stone here. And so obviously this is really bad for white, because white has only just played that move. White's only just played here to capture one stone. So it would be sort of bad for white to give black that stone this way. Black gets a ponuki here and is gaining more in the center than white has gained on the left side. So that would be bad. Otherwise, white would sort of, to avoid that, white might play an Atari from above. And now black can force with this move. Like if white answers, then black's going to extend. And getting the extra hanetsugi there was a huge profit for black. Like white had to put a stone in his own territory. And then we can go on to look at what happens if white does not put the stone in. Now the corner is going to turn into a ko. This is just one way to do it, but this is going to be a ko in the corner. So that's bad for white. So this cut here is an exquisite tesuji. And you get the feeling that master was just waiting for white to play this move, to make the tesuji work. Because it would not be so effective without white playing that.
Right.
So let's see what happens. So white just playing here would be too painful, allowing black to get that extra forcing move here. Playing here would just be a disaster, because black would get the ponuki in the center. So white plays here and makes a trade of it. So this is a kind of a natural sequence here. The whole corner has become black territory. So now black has something like 6 points in the corner. And white has gotten the side territory. But with the 6 points in the territory that black got in the corner, that's an area that used to be white's territory. So like it was supposed to be something like 15 points or so, or almost 20 points of white territory. So black's gained more than 20 points here. And white has gained on the left side, but it's not that big, because black's going to be able to black is still going to be able to make some use of those stones. And so by allowing white to attack first and then using this tesuji to switch to the corner was a very nice sequence for black. It was just it worked perfectly. And you can see white had to add an extra stone here. And black can afford to sacrifice these marked stones, because it's going to take a lot of doing for white to make that left side territory add up to be 20 points. Wow. So the big difference here is that the lower left corner used to be a white territory of almost 20 points, whereas the right side was not anyone's territory at that point. So it's just black is getting a double profit of reducing white's territory and making some territory for himself, whereas white is just making a territory which in a place that was no man's land. And so it's just the white territory that you count. So it's not as big a profit.
So you felt like black was ahead before this whole sequence anyway, and so this is, is the game over?
I'd say the game is over. It's probably not a big difference, but this is, I think this whole variation here on the left and lower left was a huge success for black.
Wow.
And it was, it all started with a very natural move here, in which white tried to start an attack.
So how could white have played better here?
It's really hard to say. I think it's already bad for white. The fact that white cannot play this move and succeed is already really bad.
Just too late.
So it would go back to this whole variation here, which was not so good for white. The fact that black, just the fact that black got this cut in was very damaging. So I would be going back to that area. You know, since you mentioned it, I would probably go back to this move and say maybe white should have just played something like this.
Really?
But you know, at this point, I'm not very confident to be suggesting moves for white because I think the game looks difficult for white anyway. So like when professionals are studying a game like this and someone tries to find the good moves for the losing side,
right,
you usually get beat up anyway, even if you find a reasonably good move. And so it's not a very happy prospect, but maybe I would have tried to find a different move like this, or maybe like this, just some different sequence to avoid what happened in the game, because all of this stuff that was so good for black, it all sort of stems from the fact that black got to cut here once and sort of ruin white's shape, and the fact that white was sort of forced to be surrounding this lower left corner, which is not a very nice territory because there's a lot of bad AGA left in it. And that's what made white want to do this attack in order to protect the lower left corner while attacking black. But this was just it's sort of as if black was just waiting for white to try to do that. And this sort of it enlarged black's lead. So it's looking really good for black now. And we might as well go a bit further. You know, at this point, I'm ready to give up. But
seeing that left corner disappear like that is just so dispiriting. It's
more than 20 points difference. Like it's white still has to work hard to be catching up to those 20 points.
Let me just ask you a professional question. So when you have a situation like this where you've clearly fallen behind, right?
Yes.
What's the plan?
Okay. Well, one thing. This is another position where one thing you can do is you can count the territory, and you can since white has potential in the center, sort of. The only territory that's worth you can count. You just count the territory that's relatively solid. Like you count the black territory.
Okay.
And black still has something like 20 points in the upper right, and 10 points in the lower right. A few points, and we can call the lower left Komi, and then something close to 20 points. It's not 20 points. Well, let's call it 15 points in the upper left. So that's 35, 45, and then something on the lower side. So 50 points plus Komi.
Right.
White has something like 10 points on the lower side, lower right area, and white's going to try to make 20 points on the left side, but doesn't really have it yet. So maybe white has a max of something like 35 points. So white's behind in territory. It doesn't really look like white just surrounding territory will be able to catch up, and we have to take into concern that it's black's move, so black has the initiative. So like if black had answered this move, which he did not, then white would be something like 20 points behind. So white would be thinking of trying to find some way to start a fight in the center, or just try to be very greedy in the way white surrounded some territory, maybe in the left side towards the center, something like that. White would be trying to, at this point, it looks pretty desperate, so I would be trying to find a way to start a fight. But just to show what black does now, you would sort of expect this move. It's a huge territorial move, about 10 points. But black's sort of starting to wrap up the game now. Again, black's not trying to escape with the left side, but just forcing white to add stones to it to capture those stones. So black's playing very lightly here and just dancing around in the center, just erasing all of white's potential in the center of the board. And so I think this is about where I ended my commentary on the SDF file. It's already a hopeless game. But since you mentioned it, your question about how white should continue in this kind of position, we're going to see how white has to continue. White has to be very aggressive here. At this point, the left side it already looks like it's not going to be 20 points. Like if white adds a stone here, that's just going to allow black to do something like this to reduce it again. It's going to take a lot of doing to make this. It could be up to up to 20 points, but it's going to be just around 20 points with white answering everything that black does. So it's even if white gets 20 points there, the upper left corner is going to be about 20 points now, and black just has too much territory anyway. So it's not really attractive for white to be trying to surround the left side. So white has to attack. So this is what happened in the game. And so we can see white is using a very strong attack here. And later on in the game, there is the point that if white plays here, this will give black an eyeless shape on the lower side. So if white can sort of surround this black group from the center, then this mark point on the lower side will be the killing move to kill the black group there. That would give black an eyeless shape. So so this is something that white can aim at. It's a kind of a forlorn hope, but yeah. But this is, again, we can see that master is not going to be forced into the defensive. This is a very nice way that master uses to squeeze white in reverse. And so white is attempting to attack here, but it's just not working. White has to save the 3 stones here. And we can see that master has not forgotten to make eyes here. It's alive with Sente. And then master takes the big point on the left side. So it's not really, white's not gaining very much. We can see that white knows that he's behind, so he's trying all sorts of stuff. And at this point, white starts to try to, he's going to try a very strong attack against the center black group.
Center group, yeah.
So at this point, white is sort of just, white has abandoned the idea of making territory and is going for an all-out attack. So we can see that white has obviously realized that the position is very difficult and is going all out to, you could say that white is actually trying to kill the black group because white's losing a lot here.
Has to, though, right? Can't, I mean.
And white, yeah, so I would agree, but of course there's no way that white can kill this group. It's just too easy to live. And of course master does that very skillfully. And here we see that, it's not, when you're under attack, there's a tendency to forget that your opponent's stones are weak also. But master does not forget that. We can see that if these marked stones here, if black can connect these, the whole white group on the lower side is going to die.
Yeah.
So white has to answer that. And so it turns out that white's attack is already a disaster here. White's still trying to do something, but it's just not going to work. So yeah, the whole attack there was just, white did manage to capture those 3 stones, but that was just because master sort of allowed it. Master didn't really have to throw those 3 stones away, but the end result here, after all this fighting, is that white's left side territory has completely disappeared. And actually, black has got some territory there on the left side now. And white got something like 20 points in the center. But that was just a trade with the left side territory. So white has not really gained very much in territory. And again, master has the initiative to, well, this was sort of interesting. These stones were killed, but black got some points on the crawling ones here was pretty big, and black's going to be able to squeeze from the lower side too. So it wasn't a complete loss for black. And so, yeah, here we go. They're entering the end game. And white does...
wow, we've actually got into the end game.
Yeah, but, here we see that master is making use of those stones.
Oh, right.
And again, that whole area there, it's 12, 14. It's something like 25 points now that white got in the center here. But we can see that while white was doing that, black got some extra points on the right side, and white's lower side has been reduced. And, of course, the left side has completely disappeared. And so at this point, it's black has a fairly large lead. And so just to go to the ending position, they took it a few more moves, and then white resigned.
Right.
So it all goes back. One of the key points in the game, I think, is back here in this trade here that happened on the left side. This was sort of a decisive point where black played this cut here. It's sort of as if black was had this ready and was sort of waiting for white to play this move because it was just perfect timing.
Would you call it a trap, or
Well, it's not as if, in a way, it's a trap, but it's not as if black was taking a bad position and tricking white into making a mistake.
It's not a hamete, but
it's like it's already bad for white. But the way it was, it had this move just waiting for white to play this move to make it even more effective. There's a kind of a fiendish.
Fiendish. Oh, there's a word you haven't used before in connection with. Master is fiendish. Yeah, it is though. Well, it's just a brilliant. It's just a lovely move.
Just waiting for white to do that and making this even more. It's just it's a perfect sequence here, which finished off the game.
Wow.
And again, the time control is so short that this would be it's really devastating for the human player to have this happen. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a short time period. Wow. So this is a great game. It's got this mysterious 3-3 that you just...
The mysterious 3-3 point that I tried to explain, but, I haven't really convinced myself.
It works, so you can't argue with it, but I can tell you're just not happy with it. But you do like the fiendish move. You do like the fiendish move.
Yeah, I like that move. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, there you have it. Another wonderful game by Master and another wonderful commentary by Michael Redmond. I have a feeling you're not finished analyzing this game, though. So it's it seems like it's still you haven't explained the 3-3 move to your satisfaction. So I have a feeling
I need to have a chat with Master about that move.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll have a chance. So, all right. Thank you so much, Michael. Appreciate it. And thank you all for watching. And I think we have one more pair coming. So stay tuned for those.
Another 2 games. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're on schedule with our Wednesday, Saturday release. So, and a big shout out to our producer, Michael Wanek, who's been really just doing a bang up job and very patient with us, I have to say. So we appreciate that. So, all right. Thanks again, Michael, and thanks for watching.
Thank you.